Hello and welcome to Jesus for Asia Now. Today we want to talk about the National Bible Worker, who they are, where they're working, and what they do. But first we have some statistics we want to talk about in the world today. Honey, what are the statistics, some of the statistics that we deal with when we look at missions and some of these things? Is there really a need for National Bible Workers?
Yeah, that's a really good question, darling. But the truth is that there's still over 2 billion people, anywhere from 2.5 to 2.9 billion people, depending on how you count, that have no access to the gospel. That means that they're living in a people group, and a people group is a separate group from other groups, either separated by either nationality or by language or geographically, or it's its own group. So if you put the gospel into one of those people groups, it's very unlikely for it to jump into another group.
Okay.
Yeah. Over 2.5 billion people live in people groups where there is less than 2% Christian. In other words, very unlikely for them to encounter it in their entire life.
Okay, so that also means usually no portion of the scriptures.
Many of these languages have no portion of the scriptures. Many of them have no missionaries. Many of them have
no indigenous Christians,
right.
No native Christian.
Exactly.
Okay.
Those are what some people call unengaged. There is no witness at all anywhere.
Okay, and how many of those kinds of people groups are there,
There's
the unengaged ones?
Over 1,500 people groups with no engagement.
Absolutely no access.
Right. No Christian witness, no Christian, no missionary, no Bible. Somewhere around 40 to 50,000 of those kind of people die every single day. In other words, they're going into not just Christless graves, but throughout their entire life, they've never had a chance to hear the name of Jesus Christ, much less the story of Jesus Christ.
So there's still a need.
There's
That's what you're saying.
Huge need. When we take a good look, it's overwhelming. And so it takes a lot of faith to believe when Christ says, this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world, and then the end shall come, because we like to think that Jesus is coming right away. But the fact is that there's still a lot of work for us to do.
So let's talk some of the Christian giving statistics. There's one about how much of Christian giving goes to America or to English speakers. Can you share that one with us?
If you look at the world map and you draw a circle around Asia, which includes China, India, Malaysia, Japan.
Okay.
More people live inside that circle than live outside of it.
In the whole world.
In the whole world. But approximately 92% of all Christian giving in the world goes to minister to the 7% that speak English.
Okay, so if you draw
that around North America, 90% of all Christian giving goes to that part of the world, where less than 10% goes to the rest of the world.
What about these unreached people groups that we're talking about? Where are the majority of the unreached people groups?
40% of all unreached people groups are actually in India.
Okay.
2,000 people groups are in India that are considered unreached.
Unreached.
Percentage of Christian giving going to unreached people is less than 1 penny out of every $100. So less than 1% of all Christian giving goes to reach unreached people groups.
Now there's some statistics specifically about India. You brought up India. What is one of the statistics about India?
First of all, you've got a country that has 1.2 billion people, 4 times the population of North America, 600,000 towns and villages in India, and almost 500,000 towns and villages in India alone have never heard the gospel.
So like 5/6 of the villages.
Yeah. I mean, how many people would it take to reach every single town and village in India? Because that's the work that's laid out before us.
Right.
Is to reach every single town and village in India and the rest of the world before Jesus can come. This gospel of the kingdom shall be preached to every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. We're in 924 languages. There's only 6,000 to go.
Yeah. That's pretty sobering.
Yeah. And in India, they've got about 26, 28 official languages and a lot of other little languages.
Okay, so what is the advantage of the National Bible Worker? Because we're talking specifically about that. What does that mean, National Bible Worker?
A National Bible Worker is somebody that's born and raised in the country that they minister in.
So what are some of the advantages?
Well, let's say, for instance, South India, in Tamil Nadu. For me to go and minister in Tamil Nadu, I would have to learn the language, I'd have to learn the culture, and I'd have to learn how to live there. And to get me over there, at least $1,500 for my ticket, plus the rest of my family,
Plus
you're talking
living there, yeah.
$6,000 easily, just in airline fees. Then you've got launching fees, you've got all the expenses of moving a family and all that kind of stuff. So the average launching fee for a missionary is about $70,000.
For a Western missionary.
For a Western missionary to go. And in some cases, that is really necessary, because sometimes it's easier for one of us here to go than it is for somebody to go to the next people
The
group.
next people group.
There's a bigger hurdle there, and much
Because
more.
of cultural differences and various other things.
Exactly.
The National Bible Worker then, they've been born and raised there, so they know the language, they know the culture,
That's normal.
they know how to live there.
Yeah, they know how to relate, they know how to reach the hearts of their fellow countrymen, and they know how to speak the language in a way that appeals to their heart. So they're in their heart language, heart culture, and the cost of a Bible worker in India is $60 a month. So we're talking my plane ticket, just one person's plane ticket, would sponsor 2 Bible workers for an entire year. So when you start looking at the number of cities and towns and villages that need to be reached, and you start multiplying.
Then we need a large labor force.
Right. It's all going to take money. It's all going to take sacrifice. It's going to take the Holy Spirit. But as we start to move, as we start investing in God's work, then the Holy Spirit starts moving as well. But I calculated once, to reach all of Tamil Nadu, we could do it in 5 years. It would cost about maybe $1 million. That's not that much.
With local workers.
Using local workers. If we did it with foreign missionaries, it would cost probably $150 million. When you start looking at the numbers of towns and villages that need to be reached, and you start multiplying out how many people it would take to reach those. So let's say, for instance, we have a region that has 1,500 villages. And let's say you can hire 1 Bible worker, and that Bible worker will reach 2 villages in a year. You would have to hire 750 Bible workers. So that 1 year to reach 1,500 towns and villages would cost about $540,000. Okay. So let's say we replace the Bible worker, the local national Bible worker, with a foreign missionary. Okay, and to get the same number of missionaries, 2 villages per missionary, 750 missionaries to reach 1,500 villages, you're talking $52 million.
That's a huge difference.
There's a huge difference. It's
like 100 times.
But the cool thing is that in India, you've got this labor force, these believers already. The church is established there, and people are on fire for Christ. They just need a little bit to survive, to go forward.
Now, another thing with these national Bible workers, because many times with a Westerner, Christianity is considered in Asia as a Western religion. And so if the nationals are sharing it, though, then it becomes something that can be acceptable for a national to do. And so you take out that nationalistic or foreign difference.
Of course, in some areas, even the nationals get treated poorly because you're the servant of the foreigners. But they can have that entering wedge. They're able to mingle like Christ did. Christ became a Jew to mingle with the Jews. He mingled so well that even at the end of his ministry, they had to hire an insider to point out who Jesus was.
Right.
He didn't stand out. He wasn't like a foot taller with a big red sash.
Yeah.
He looked like one of them.
So that makes a big difference. In many areas where Christianity is just, there's huge barriers to that and huge barriers to foreigners, the national workers can be a lot more effective because they can go in places we can't go.
Right, especially when you combine them with community service things like our JFA evening schools. They can break down the barriers and show the people God's love to the point where they value these people. They don't accept maybe the religion. They value the people. They want them around them. And that's planting seeds for eternity. A lot of our Bible workers, they go and they knock on the door. Do you have any prayer needs? And the one thing about India that I love, people get the spiritual side. They know there's a spirit side.
There's this, because they have real harassment and real encounters with the devil. And,
people will say,
it's real.
I'm being harassed by the devil, by evil spirits. And in America, we'd like, oh yeah, right. But over there, it's like, one mother invited me to come into her hut and pray for her son. And I says, what's the problem with your son? She says, well, he's not sleeping well at night. Well, what happens? Well, he wakes up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and he's like this far off the ground. And there's nothing under him. He's just levitating there. Okay. How do you explain that? And so they're open to the spiritual things. So these Bible workers knock on the doors, do you have any prayer requests? They're very open to pray. And they don't mind who you pray to, because they've got like 300 million gods. So it's good to cover as many bases as you can. Your God, yeah, pray to your God for me. And then Jesus will step in and he will heal them, and they'll begin to serve him the rest of their lives.
Well, while you were telling that story, it reminded me of our old Mary, and she has 2 children, and her son is 30, and he's addicted to drugs, or he was. And she was so upset by this, and she was always worried and became almost depressed. But praying, for some reason she was praying. I don't know if she was, I don't think she was a Hindu before, but she was a different religion, I don't know. But the Bible workers, she encountered our Bible workers and asked them to pray with her. And they started praying with her, and then they were able to find help for this drug-addicted son and get him counseling, and through a lot of prayer, just a lot of prayer on the mother's behalf and on the Bible workers, they were able to get him help, and he was able to leave the drugs. And the family's just rejoicing, and the neighbors are amazed to see the change in her son. And it's because she knew a little bit about God, enough to pray, and then she prayed for help. And the Bible workers came and prayed with her and were able to find help for her son. So it's just these kinds of stories we hear, just their prayers are the opening thing. Another story, sometimes there's health issues. And some of our Bible workers have received the Light School's medical missionary training. And so they know a little bit about what charcoal can do. And they know about what water treatments can do. And so they find somebody that has a horrible sore on their leg, and they offer to give charcoal treatments, and they go and they do the treatments regularly until they train the people to do them for themselves. And they pray every time, and the Lord heals. The Lord uses these. And then the people's hearts are softened, and they're willing to listen. And they've had so many Bible studies start because of just the simple home remedies that they know.
And there's some outright miracles that happen as a result of prayer. And people that have been bedridden after being prayed for will get up and go to work. And they've been bedridden for months. And so you've got these people that see God's power, and God responds to faith even today
in
miraculous ways. And when people see that, it touches their heart, because they see that God is powerful, but not just powerful, He cares for them individually, and He wins them over. Do you have a story of how somebody came to Christ through our Bible workers?
Yes, actually, it was a couple of Bible workers. They usually go 2 by 2. It's a story of a man named Ravi, and he was a Hindu man. And he fell in love with and married a Christian woman. And his family was angry. His Hindu family, they went to the temple and they did special rites to bring like a curse on them to try to separate them. And so Ravi, being a Hindu, started taking his wife to the temple to do various worship rites to try to protect themselves and to try to reverse this process. And they became daily harassed by evil spirits. The evil spirits were coming and bothering them every day. And so they went to the temple more often. They did all sorts of things and paid to try to bring peace into their lives and prosperity into their lives, and it wasn't working. So Ravi's wife actually met the Bible workers, and the Bible workers asked if they could pray for them. And she shared with them the story. And so the Bible workers began praying and encouraging Ravi's wife to pray, and she was praying, and the harassment stopped. And Ravi realized that there was a powerful God involved. And so he has chosen to worship Jesus also. And so it's just a beautiful testimony of what God does. He changes lives and He overcomes evil. And it's just such a privilege to hear these stories. And so I want to encourage our viewers to check out our email newsletter. That's where you hear them first, is on our email newsletter. And you can sign up for that on the Jesus for Asia website, jesusforasia.org, and there's a link there. You just click on it and you can sign up for the newsletter. And that's the first place that these stories are published.
You know, we've got a little over 200 Bible workers in India.
In various parts of India. But some of them have had more training than others, and that's one of our biggest needs. Besides paying their stipends every month, is to be able to give them more training.
There's a big need for training.
Yeah. We do have a young couple that went to North India. They just want to do training. They want to teach them the simple remedies. They want to teach them the Bible. We've had Bible workers that didn't know where the 10 Commandments was located in the scriptures. And So they just need to have opportunities because they know the basics. They know
Right.
that God is the most powerful God, that Jesus Christ died for their sins, and they know the basics. And so they share what they know.
Right.
And people are converted. But how much better would it be if they could explain more of the gospel, more of the history of the world and how God has miraculously interceded to save man over and over and over again.
Right. So, honey, what is it that we actually do, you and I, what we do with our Bible workers? How does that work?
Well, we are their support group here in America. So we're responsible for raising the funds for their stipends.
So you and I don't take our own money and send it over there for their stipends.
We don't have that kind of income. No, it's over $10,000 a month at the current exchange rates
Right.
for the Bible workers. At the previous exchange rate, it was as much as $12,000. But no, we don't have that kind of money of our own. So our responsibility here in America is to find sponsors for the Bible workers and to be able to process those funds and send them over there.
Okay, so what we do is we tell people here in America about the need, because it wouldn't take much for a family in America to sponsor their own full-time Bible worker in India.
No, it's $60 a month in India. It's $120 in the Philippines and $240 in Thailand.
Right. They don't have to sponsor the full salary. They can partner as little as $1 a day.
Yeah,
So we let people know what the opportunities for ministry are.
right.
And I think God has put this partnership together in heaven. We have a partnership where in India they've got a massive workforce that's willing and dedicated to God. And in America we've got the resources and the knowledge that we can encourage, we can sponsor, and we can help with training and then enable them to go into places that have never heard of Jesus before.
Yeah, and
But
that's exciting.
A lot of our Bible workers also, they help nurture the local church because in a lot of places there is no pastor.
So they lead out in the worship services and prayer meetings and things.
Right, right. A local Bible worker is very effective. Each Bible worker brings in a new soul almost every month, which is really amazing. They start working right away. They are effective right away. They start bringing people to Christ right away. And it continues throughout their whole life. If somebody donates $60 to a Bible worker, how much of that actually goes to his salary?
All of it.
All of it.
Yeah, the only thing that is ever taken out of the funds that we receive is the funds for transferring. No matter how much I transfer to India, right now it costs me $25. So that $25 is taken out of the total that I'm transferring. But other than that, that's it. Jesus for Asia doesn't remove anything for administrative or overhead costs, nothing like that. It's only the bank transfer fees to get the money either to us or to them.
If somebody donates $60, then that $60 ends up in the Bible worker's hands to
Right.
enable them to preach the gospel.
Right.
Wow. How do we work with the church?
What we do is when we receive the funds for the Bible workers, we actually send it to the division office there in India.
And then they send it on to the local units.
Right.
And then the local units, like a conference or region or section, they'll actually pay the Bible worker
Right.
and give them some training when they come for their paycheck.
So it's in cooperation with the church,
Yeah.
supporting the church, because we want to build up the church.
Yeah. And we have some testimonies of some of the presidents of some of these different units.
And the division as well.
Yeah, they're very thankful for any help that our Bible workers can give. And our director, Israel Prasad, he's in India, he's Indian. He gets calls every day. Please, can we have some more JFA Bible workers? New sections, new places, like they'll have a big place and they'll grow the work to a point where they call it bifurcating.
Yeah,
They
that's an
bifurcate.
old word.
Yeah, they basically split a large section into a new section.
Smaller sections.
And then they'll put a president and a secretary in this new section.
And sometimes they're by themselves.
Yeah, and sometimes they'll get a pastor, sometimes they won't. And they'll call, please send, like for instance
Help
what
us.
happened with Rajkot. They have, the whole state of Gujarat was one big section. I think it was like a conference. But the whole western half of the state had almost no work at all. And so a few years ago, they split that unit. And so now they've got a whole western half of Gujarat that has no work at all. No believers, no work, no nothing. And they placed a president, a secretary, and a volunteer pastor in that area for like 8 million people. So they called brother Israel and said, can we have some Bible workers? He called us and we says, oh man, we can't say no. So we provided, through the help of our donors, 10 Bible workers for that area. And now when we go back, you can see these are the faces of the people that are now worshiping God because of those Bible workers. And they're in a lot of different areas. Several hundred people are now worshiping God every Sabbath due to just these 10 Bible workers, and it's growing. And this is how the work grows. Now, we've been going through a really challenging period the last few years, and sometimes, well, quite often, our Bible workers don't receive full salary because they're not fully sponsored.
Right.
Do they just leave then when they're not getting a full salary?
Well, we thought they would.
Yeah.
But when we ask them those questions, when we can go and visit them, they say, we don't work for you, we work for God. God's first, money's second.
And so they're learning faith also.
Right.
And we're getting reports back from the leaders of these different sections. They say that they're very effective because they are so earnest. They may not get a regular salary every month. In fact, one of the presidents of one of these units called Israel crying. He says, these people, they don't get a regular salary every month, but they're so earnest that
And dedicated.
And persevering that the fruit is so wonderful. And he was crying that these people had to live like this, but this is part of sacrifice. When we sacrifice for the sake of God, it puts him higher than anything else. People see that we value God. I'm just proud to be a voice, just a small voice, to represent these Bible workers that are laying it on the line every day, that are living by sacrifice in conditions that we would never imagine. And they're doing it by faith and moving out. And I'm just privileged to be associated with them, to be able to say, these are our JFA Bible workers.
Yes.
And I'd like to see 1,000 more.
More and more
10,000 more. And that's possible. It is possible. This is the greatest joy that we found in our lives, is being part of bringing the gospel to people like this. We may not have a relationship with them now, but there's going to be a time when God will wrap a robe of light around them, and he'll place a crown of gold on their heads. Man, that is going to make it worth it all. So this is the greatest return on investment I can ever think of, because it's eternal payoff. A pastor in India asked me, how many people would you like to come into the church? Pick a number that's available. However many people you would like to learn of Jesus, the door's open. I believe God is going to have a people that will walk through it. Let me take you to an interview of a Bible worker. We're going to go meet a Bible worker that's hoping to be a Bible worker. And this is in the upper Ganges section, near the Ganges
So this is in
River.
North India.
This is in North India. We're going up there. This is the street we're driving down to his house. This is the traditional extended family kind of dwelling. You can see the women there cooking the food, the men sitting. Several families are represented here. And now this is the man that's hoping to become a Bible worker. And the question is, can we hire him? Do we have the faith and the funds and the people that are willing to sponsor this man and hundreds others like this? Right now we have 200 Bible workers in India. We could have 2,000.
Yeah,
we could
easily.
have 20,000 Bible workers. We need to set up training centers so they can get trained. We have not been able to do that because of lack of funds. But this is the kind of work that is possible, that needs to be done before Jesus can come. Now the Bible workers in the Philippines are doing a similar work. And even though there's 1 million Adventists in the Philippines, as many in the Philippines as there are in the United States, there's 7,500 islands in the Philippines. And there's still a lot of languages that still have no witness in them.
Yes, and this is why we've begun sponsoring Bible workers in the Philippines. There are areas where, in the central Philippines, on the island of Panay, there are Bible workers there. Even though there are Adventists there, they needed help. Because they had a major typhoon come through, and as a result of their work in the community, giving away water and things, they received 2,500 requests for Bible studies. So
there's no way a little 45-member church is going to be able to give 2,500 Bible studies.
Not in a short time.
Right.
So we started sponsoring Bible workers there.
Yes.
And then Mike Cordes and the Go Be
Yes.
Do Missions Project, which we'll be talking about in a different show,
Yes.
they also have Bible workers in the southern Philippines on the island of Mindanao.
And they're going up into the mountains, which is a new tribe, new language, new people group.
Right. They were
Untouched
unreached.
with the gospel. Very exciting project.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Then in Thailand, there's a huge need for Bible workers. The challenging thing about Thailand is that even though it's a well-developed country or well-developing country, it's a very comfortable place to live in many respects, it's less than 1% Christian.
Right. And we hear from missionaries that have been there for a long time that it's such a challenge to get through in words that they can understand. There's a belief in karma where if you're good, then you receive good. If you're bad, then you receive bad. And so you can't change anything. You know, whatever's coming is coming. And
Right.
so there's this comfort
Right.
with the way things are being the way they are. And that's very challenging.
Well, in Thai
And-
society, the community is very strong, and so that all their needs are met, so they don't feel a need for anything else. But there is a great need when people find Jesus. They're so happy. Christ has things that the Thais actually value: peace, giving, all these things that they value. But without Christ, it's very hard to do.
Right, right.
It's a works-based merit type of system that doesn't really have the peace. They love it when they can see it, okay, and when they can feel it. The church has been there for over 100 years, but for the last almost 20 years, there's been no Desire of Ages in the Thai language, no great controversy, almost no Ellen White books printed in Thai at all. They don't have the resources that we have. So there's a great need for Bible workers there, local people that we can enable and we can inspire and we can equip.
Right.
Yeah.
And they can go forward and share it more easily
Right,
in the local language.
yeah.
It's been exciting to see the videos and to hear the stories and to share the stories. I just want to encourage our viewers to get involved with the Bible workers in India, Thailand, the Philippines, and any others that you hear about. You know, we've been asked to work in Japan to sponsor Bible workers there. It's $2,500 a month. And so far the Lord hasn't provided for us to do that, but the need is great, both for missionaries, for ourselves to be missionaries, and for the locals to be enabled to do the work. So pray and ask the Lord how He would have you to be involved in this ministry. Pray for the Bible workers because they're on the front line and they're going day to day and they meet headlong the devil sometimes. So I just ask you to pray and to be involved. I encourage you to read the stories, get signed up for the newsletter so you can read the stories and share them. And just please, please get involved in the Lord's work. May God richly bless you as you choose to be involved in His work.
You may send your tax-deductible gift to Jesus for Asia, P.O. Box 1221, Collegedale, Tennessee 37315. Or you can call us at 423-413-7321. Or you can also find us on the web at jesusforasia.org.